Hello, dear students. My name is Venkata Swamy, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Humanities and Science in Marri Laxman Institute of Technology and Management, Hyderabad. Now, for today's session, we are going to discussing energy sources. So the term energy is nothing but the ability to do work. The energy is nothing but the ability to do work is called as energy. So this energy we can classify into two different ways. One is the renewable energy sources and second one is non-renewable energy sources. The renewable energy sources are nothing but we can generate or we can reproduce again and again. Or the best example for the renewable energy sources are solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy, etc. And non-renewable energy sources are coal, oil, crude oil, or which is also called as petroleum oil, and natural gases. These are the non-renewable energy sources. In this, as part of the energy sources module, now we are going to discussing here fuel. Here fuel is nothing but it is a combustible substance which is on proper heating or proper burning, it produces a large amount of heat energy. So in the sense, so the heat energy is released due to the combustion of the fuel. What is mean by fuel? Fuel is a combustible substance, means it is a mixture of, a fuel is consisting of a mixture of saturated hydrocarbons. It is consisting of carbon and hydrogens. When such a fuel, when it is undergoes a proper burning, it will produce a large amount of heat energy. So how this heat energy is releasing? Means that heat energy is produced due to the interconversions in between the electrons which are present in the particular atoms of the respective fuel and the electrons which are present in the oxygen. Therefore, when the fuel, when it is undergoes a proper burning, or when the fuel, when it is undergoes combustion in the presence of oxygen, a large amount of heat energy will be releasing. So this heat evolved during combustion can be used economically and as well as industrial and other uses. And also we can define in another manner, it is a combustible substance which on burning in the presence of air or in the presence of oxygen, it produces a large amount of heat and that can be used economically and for a domestic purpose and as well as industrial purpose are called as and fuels. And the best example for this, wood and coal or crude oils or natural gases. So these are the best example for the fuels. Next. The next topic is classification of fuels. So based on the fuels, it can be classified into different ways. So based on the source, the fuels can be classified into two categories. One is the natural fuels and second category is secondary fuels or artificial fuels. Natural fuels are nothing but the fuels which are obtained from the naturally. For example, here the fuels which are occur in the nature such as wood, peat or coal or petroleum, which is also called as crude oil, and the natural gas. So these are the fuels we are obtained from the nature. That's why, so these are the, we can consider as, these are the best examples for the primary fuels, or these are the best example for the natural fuels. And second category is secondary fuels or artificial fuels. And these secondary fuels or artificial fuels are derived from natural fuels. So artificial fuels are, the best example for the artificial fuels are coke or charcoal or kerosene or petrol or diesel or kerosene or producer gas or water gas. These are the best example for the secondary fuels. So therefore, the fuels can be classified based on the sources. We can classify into two categories. One is the natural fuels and second one is the artificial fuels. Again, based on the physical state of the fuel, again we can classify into again three categories or three types. Natural fuels classified into three categories, three types. They are solid fuels, liquid fuels and gaseous fuels. So solid fuels are nothing but the fuels are in the form of solid. So the best example for the solid fuels: wood, peat, lignites and coal. So these are the best example for the solid fuels. Liquid fuels, the fuels which are in the form of liquid, they are crude oil, or which is also called as petroleum oil, and tar, diesel, petrol, kerosene. These are the best examples for the liquid fuels which are in the form of liquid. Third one, gaseous fuels. The gaseous fuels are nothing but the fuels are in the form of gaseous states. They are natural gases and coal gas or producer gas or water gas, or these are the some of the examples for the gaseous fuels. And this is the classification of the fuels is done based on the occurrence or based on the physical states of the fuels. And let's see, so what are the characteristics of a good fuel? What are the important characteristics of a good fuel? So when we should say that whether the fuel is a good or bad? So when the fuel is a good, it should be follow, these are the some of the important characteristic properties it should be maintained. Then only we can say that that fuel is a good. So in this matter, so a good fuel should be consisting of higher calorific value. Means that calorific value. What is meant by calorific value? So calorific value is the amount of heat energy, the amount of heat energy is produced, the amount of heat energy is produced when 1 gram of a fuel, when 1 gram of a fuel or 1 ml of a fuel which is completely burns in the presence of oxygen. Once again, my dear students, I am repeating the definition of calorific value. The calorific value can be defined as the amount of heat energy is produced, the amount of heat energy is liberated when 1 unit mass of a fuel or when 1 gram of a fuel which is completely burns in the presence of oxygen. Then such type of amount of heat energy which is liberated, that amount of heat energy we can call as calorific value. So for a good fuel, it should have high calorific value. That's the first point. When we say that the fuel is a good, definitely that fuel should be consisting of or should be having high calorific value. Second point, a good fuel should having moderate ignition temperature. In the similar manner, a good fuel should be consisting of a low moisture contents. A good fuel should be consisting of low moisture content. Because of, if the fuel is consisting of, if the high moisture, then automatically it will reduces the amount of heat energy. That's why, so the calorific value is going to be reduces. For a good fuel, calorific value should be high. Therefore, the calorific value is mainly depends upon the percentage of carbon. The percentage of carbon present in the fuel. And the fourth point, a good fuel should be consisting of low non-combustible matter contents. The fifth point, for a good fuel, it should be available low cost and easily available. And the sixth point, for a good fuel, it should be easy to transportation and it should be easy storage and cost should be low. Seventh point, the products of combustion, the combustion products should not be harmful. During the combustion process, during the combustion of the fuel, there will be a huge amount of toxic gases are released into the atmosphere. And that toxic gases we can also call as combustible products. And this, whatever the combustion products are released during the combustion, that should not be harmful. It should not cause us to the air pollution. And it should be burned air without much smoke. It should not produce a much amount of smoke. Then only high energy will be released. And last point is the combustion should be easily controllable. Whatever the combustion process we are doing, that should be we can easily controllable. So these are the important characteristics of a good fuel. So based on the depends upon this, these are the points we can say that the fuel is a good or bad. So please, my dear students, please go through all the points which we have covered for these characteristics of a good fuel. And this is the classification of the flow charts. The fuel mainly classified into two categories based on the occurrence, based on the source. That's the primary fuels and the secondary fuels. Again, based on the physical states. Based on the physical states, the primary fuels again classified into three categories. One is the solid fuels and liquid fuels and gaseous fuels. For example, for the solid fuels, wood and peat or coal. An example for the liquid fuels, that's a crude oil or petroleum oil. An example for the gaseous fuels, that is natural gas, which are also called as methane, which is also called as marsh gas. It is very toxic gases. It's a very harmful gas. And second fuels, which is also called as artificial fuels, again which is classified into three categories based on the physical states. One is the solid, secondary fuels, liquid secondary fuels and gases secondary fuels. And the example for the solid, coke and charcoal, and the petrol, LPG. Sorry, LPG is not considered for the liquid, and LPG is considered the gas. And the petrol, the crude oil, is the best example for the primary liquid fuel. And from in the secondary fuels, petrol, diesel, kerosene, etc. These are some of the best example for the secondary fuels. And the last one is the secondary gaseous fuels. All secondary fuels which are derived from this primary fuels. So the best example for the gaseous fuels are coal gas, water gas, producer gas, semi-producer gas, water gas, semi-water gas. So all these are the best example for the gaseous fuels. Next topic, calorific value. Just now we have covered I have explained regarding for this calorific value of a fuel. So once again, I am going to repeating this. The calorific value can be defined as it's the total quantity of heat is liberated. The total quantity of heat is liberated when 1 unit mass of a fuel which is completely burns in the presence of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen, then such type of amount of heat which is liberated, that amount of heat we can call as calorific value of a particular fuel. And this calorific value of a fuel, or calorific value of a solid fuel, calorific value of a liquid fuel, calorific value of a gaseous fuel, mainly depends upon the percentage of the carbon. The carbon percentage should be high, then only the fuel, it will releases the more amount of heat energy, so that we can say that that fuel is a good. Just to in the previous slide, the characteristic of a good fuel, the calorific value should be high. That is the reason here the calorific value of any fuel should be high, and that calorific value of fuel mainly depends upon this percentage of carbon. And this calorific value of fuel we can classify it into two types. One is the higher calorific value. Higher calorific value, that is, we can shortcut, we can write here in the short form HCV, higher calorific value. And second classification, LCV, that is lower calorific value. So coming to this first one, higher calorific value, or which is also called as gross calorific value, that is GCV. So it can be defined as the total quantity of heat is liberated when 1 unit mass of a fuel which is completely burns in the presence of oxygen, and this process we can call as combustion. And during the combustion process, so what happening here, some of the combustion products are released, and these products of combustion has been cooled at normal room temperature. So my dear students, once again I am repeating the definition of high calorific value or gross calorific value. The gross is total. So high calorific value or gross calorific value can be defined as the total amount of heat energy is liberated when 1 unit mass of a fuel which is completely burns in the presence of oxygen, then some of combustible products are reached, and these combustible products we are going to cool down at normal room temperature. Then how much amount of heat energy is liberated, that will be considered as gross calorific value or high calorific value. Second type of calorific value is NCV, that is net calorific value, or which is also called as LCV, lower calorific value. My dear students, here lower calorific value or net calorific value is net. Net calorific value is nothing but after deductions, after removing of all the combustible products, then how much amount of heat energy is evolved, or how much amount of heat energy is released, and that amount of heat energy will be considered as here LCV. So in-depth concept here, the lower calorific value or net calorific value can be defined as the amount of heat energy is released, or it is the total amount of heat energy is liberated when 1 unit mass of a fuel which is completely burns in the presence of oxygen, and here some of combustible products are released, and that combustible products are has been permitted to escape out. All the combustible products we are allowed to escape out. Then how much amount of heat energy is releasing, and that amount of heat energy will be considered as lower calorific value, and therefore higher calorific value we can calculate by using of this formula, that is HCV minus 0.09 into percentage of hydrogen present in the particular fuel into 587. Here 587 we can call as here latent heat of steam. That value is 587 calories of grams per grams. And by using of this formula we can calculate here LCV. And LCV higher calorific value, we have one formula, and that formula is discovered by Dulong scientist. So according to the Dulong's formula, he considered each and every element present in the fuel. When such type of elements, or when such type of atoms, when it is undergoes combustion, it releases some combustible products, and along with the combustible products some amount of heat energy is released. For example, carbon is there, the carbon present in the fuel, when it is undergoes combustion in the presence of oxygen, it releases carbon dioxide, and along with the carbon dioxide here 8080 calories of heat energy will be releasing. If the 1 gram of carbon present in the fuel, when it is undergoes combustion in the presence of oxygen, it releases 8080 calories of heat energy will be releasing. In the similar manner, hydrogen also undergoes oxygen. In the presence of oxygen, it releases steam, and along with the steam some amount of heat energy will be releasing, and such amount of heat energy will be calculated by using of this 34,500 into percentage of hydrogen minus percentage of oxygen. And here sulfur is also present in the fuel. If it is undergoes combustion in the presence of oxygen, it releases sulfur dioxide or sulfur trioxide. Initially, the sulfur, when it is present in the fuel, when it is undergoes combustion in the presence of oxygen, it releases sulfur dioxide. But this reaction is a exothermic reaction. A huge amount of heat energy will be releasing. But here one condition everyone should be remember: even it is exothermic reaction, even we are getting the huge amount of energy, but here the sulfur dioxide or sulfur dioxide, these are the harmful gases are released into the atmosphere and very toxic nature to the human beings. That's why for a good fuel should not be consisting of sulfur. The sulfur containing a fuel, when it is undergoes combustion, it is an exothermic reaction. It's releasing the more amount of heat energy, but along with this amount of heat energy, it will releasing a toxic gases, a toxic combustible products are released into the atmosphere. It will be causes the air pollution. That's why a good fuel should not be consisting of sulfur. So when sulfur, when it undergoes combustion, it releases sulfur dioxide along with the 2240 amount of heat energy will be releasing. So based on these elements, based on these atoms, when they are undergoes combustion here, and all these elements will be considered as to calculate high calorific value. So therefore, high calorific value we can calculate by using of this formula. So 8080 into percentage of carbon plus 34,500 into percentage of hydrogen minus percentage of oxygen plus 2,240 into percentage of sulfur into 1 by 100 kilocalorie per kg. So by using of this formula, we can calculate the lower calorific value of a particular fuel and a higher calorific value of the particular fuel which is containing carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur. These are the percentages present in the particular fuel. If you know the percentage of carbon, if you know the percentage of hydrogen, if you know the percentage of oxygen, if you know the percentage of sulfur, we can calculate this higher calorific value. And if you know the higher calorific value, and that value should be substituted in the LCV, therefore you will get the LCV formula. So in this way we can calculate lower calorific value of a particular fuel and higher calorific value of a particular fuel of the particular solid fuel or liquid fuel and gaseous fuels. Okay, these are some of the reference textbooks. So engineering chemistry by Jain and Jain and Ramadevi madam, and textbook of engineering chemistry by Tirumalachari, and some of the textbook of engineering chemistry by Jayashree and Reddy, and engineering chemistry by Shikhar Agarwal and Cambridge University, Delhi 2015. So these are some of the textbooks you can refer. And thank you so much. We will continue the next class. Thank you.